Rabbi Friedman, happy Hanukkah, and thank God it's Tuesday. We have so many non-coincidences. This is the 5th day of Hanukkah, the super special mystical day, and it falls on a Tuesday. How convenient, how incredible, and how mystical. And of course, I would like to speak first and foremost about the mysticism of this particular day of Hanukkah. And also, am I feeling something? Is it my imagination, or has the whole world started to tip the scale towards light a little bit? Seems like. But
what are you seeing?
I don't know. I'm just seeing a lot more truth coming out, which truth brings light, and a lot more people coming together for the goodness sake. A lot of it is being vocal. So to me, my assessment is just like the 5th day of Hanukkah, which tips the scale of menorah towards the light. Maybe the whole world is finally tipping the scale towards light. But again, you're the expert. I'm just an observer.
It's the observer who counts these days. Because if you can't observe it, then it's still too far. It's still too theoretical. Yeah, we need more observers. Not more rabbis. There's something special about the Hanukkah candle. What makes the Hanukkah candle different from the Shabbos candle? Well, a few things. First of all, the Shabbos candle takes you from weekday to holy day. Now, weekday is not bad. It's not evil. It's just regular, unexceptional. And Shabbos, the holy day, is exceptional. So the Shabbos candle is the transition from the unexceptional to the exceptional. It's not the greatest jump or the most drastic change. The Hanukkah candle takes you from the darkness of the weekday into holiness without any support. You know, Shabbos is a holy day, you don't do work. Shabbos is a holy day, you dress differently, you eat differently, you make a clean break from the weekdays, and Shabbos is different in many ways. Hanukkah, you're allowed to work, you don't have to eat special food, well, maybe a little latke here and there, but you don't have to change your whole diet, and you don't have to wear any special clothes. And yet, in the darkest part of the weekday, you bring light, like you say, you bring light into the world, and you don't even have to change what you're wearing or what you're eating or what you do. It's a much more miraculous accomplishment. So the Hanukkah lights are, in a sense, a little more messianic, a little more Mashiach-dik than the Shabbos candles. Because it doesn't take Mashiach to go from unexceptional to exceptional. It does take Mashiach to go from the darkest of the dark to the light of a mitzvah, to holiness. I'm not sure what you noticed or what you're seeing as an observer, but take a look at what's going on in the world to see whether the world is getting better. There's only one measure, one definite measure. If Judaism is flourishing, then the world is getting better. No question, no doubt. Political things move, they shift, could get better temporarily or only superficially. But if Judaism, if God's mitzvah is becoming more popular, the world is definitely improving. Now, if you go online, you can see the big menorah standing in the Kremlin Square. You can see a big menorah standing in front of Nazi headquarters. Come on, it's amazing. And it's with the blessings of the government, sometimes even support of the government. Sometimes the Russian National Army Band plays music at the Jewish events. That is unbelievable. And it's everywhere. The big menorah in Dubai.
What about Beijing?
Beijing, right. It's even still communist. And in every other city, wherever Chabad is in China, 7 places, 7 cities, I think. But the point is, holiness and truth always wins. The question is only when. So in 1950, when the Lubavitcher Rebbe decided to change the world, to go from a Jew being afraid to walk past the Kremlin, even when he's doing nothing illegal, to having a menorah standing in front of the Kremlin. This was the Rebbe's view. And he was sure it was going to happen. And this is in 1950. In 1950, the world was just beginning to be shocked. They were just beginning to appreciate the horrors of Stalin and Hitler. They were just beginning to bandage their wounds. And the Rebbe was talking about changing the world. That world, we're not talking about weekday, we're talking about deep, dark evil. That's the Hanukkah candle. And that explains the 5th candle. It works out, I'm not sure exactly how and why, but it works out that on the Hebrew calendar, the 5th day of Hanukkah never comes out on a Shabbos. In other words, it is the darkest of all days. It will never be Shabbos. It'll always be, at best, weekday. And on the 5th day of Hanukkah, which is the darkest of all days, we have a majority of light in the menorah. Tilt the scale. The tipping point, which is really amazing. So it wouldn't be surprising if we were surprised during Hanukkah with some really great news. It certainly wouldn't hurt.
But it seems like it's happening. Very much happening. Even over the weekend, when I was very impressed when General Flynn spoke in Washington. And what stood out the most is he said, "My mother and father told me to love another or to treat another like you want to be treated," which is the essence of Torah. And we are hearing it. And it was mostly prayers. It was mostly, realistically, it seemed like people got together to pray. And we see that happening all over, from all people. So the only thing I don't understand, why the 5th candle is the day of darkness. Can you please elaborate on that? Or, as you said, gives out the most light? Because those two things are very contradictory.
Which is what makes it so exciting. When you have the most light on the darkest day, that is turning the world upside down. So it is the darkest because it's not Shabbos, and it can never be Shabbos. It can never be a day of rest. And yet, it breaks the tie. When you have only 4 days, it's 4 and 4. I'm going to share something, I think, timely. How do we understand the core of anti-Semitism? Not the crimes. Most of the crimes were committed by drunken mobs throughout history. And you don't need an explanation to why drunken mobs are violent. But what really is the essential core of anti-Semitism that makes it so universal? Not so violent, but universal. There is something about the Jewish people and the state of Israel, the land of Israel, that is a mystery. It seems like the Jewish people as a people, not the individual, but as a people, have different laws. Not religious laws, the laws of nature. The Jew lives by different laws of nature. For example, if a Jew converts to another religion, he's still a Jew. But anybody else, you choose your religion, you make allegiance, you get baptized or whatever it is into the religion, and then you're that religion, but not a Jew. Why do we have different laws of nature? Why is it that every other people can be destroyed, assimilated, disappear, not the Jew? So the nations of the world, as a rule, have been trying through all of history to somehow break that myth and prove that Jews are normal. And we're not. We're just not. Nothing works. Enslavement doesn't work. Forced conversion doesn't work. Poverty doesn't help. Affluence doesn't do it. Nothing. Can't do it. The same is true with the land of Israel. The land of Israel was occupied by a number of powers. It was always the land of Israel. Even naming it Palestine, where did that come from? It was under Turkish rule, under British rule. What's Palestine? If it's under Turkish rule, it should be called Turkey. Not the big Turkey, a little Turkey. It's under Roman rule, it should be a little Roman. No. It was the land of Israel under Roman rule. Why is Israel different from every other country, from every other piece of real estate, from every other geographical location? You conquer it, it's yours. The Romans conquered Israel. It was Israel. The Babylonians conquered Israel. It was Israel. The Turks, Israel. What is that? Why are you an exception to the rule? That disturbs the world. And so they tried every which way to prove that we're like them after all. It's not working. It's not working. a little country surrounded by 22 hostile nations. Okay, so now the world is starting to think, okay, so the Jews are weird. What are you going to do? So the Jews don't live by the same rules. So what? In fact, maybe that's good. Maybe that's good for the world. Maybe a world that is spinning needs at least one thing that doesn't spin. In the theory of relativity, if you don't have at least one stable object, you don't know if you're spinning, you're not spinning, are you spinning fast or slow, which way you're spinning, you don't know anything. You need a stationary object in order to orient yourself. So maybe it's a good thing that Jews don't change, the land of Israel doesn't change. At least something is stable, something is reliable, predictable, unchanging, or sacred. You have to have one thing that is at least a model for how things ought to be, how things could be. And actually, when you think about it, that's what women are. When God created a woman, it was different from every other part of creation. God never said, I'm going to create a world. He never said, I'm going to make day and night. I'm going to make heaven and earth. He just went ahead and did it. He didn't ask anybody. He didn't explain himself. But when it comes to creating a woman, God suddenly says, it's not good for man to be alone. I'm going to create him a woman. Why? You go ahead. Do your thing. You created everything else so far, so go ahead. What's the need for that statement? Is because the creation of woman was different from all else. Everything else in creation was created with great potential, but the potential was not actual. Everything was created to become something, but there needed to be some improvement or change or growth. A man somehow, without getting into the whole subject, but in the psyche of a man, when did he become a man? He was born male. When did he become a man? Did he become a man? There are so many men who are not men. So becoming a man is a process. I mean, even the circumcision, a little boy is born, and no, that's not the way you're supposed to be. You have to have a circumcision. The creation of woman was not a potential, because potential may never be realized. Like I said, a man can live his entire life and never be a man. He can be a boy, he can be a baby. He's never a man. Whereas a woman is born a woman and there is no need for any change. It's exactly the way God meant it to be. You can't become more woman. And that's the mental or psychic strength of a woman. Women are indestructible compared to men.
Rabbi Friedman, now that we're getting closer to Mashiach, we see that there are so many more women as leaders of the world in high positions and making a huge difference. What will be the role of the woman after Mashiach comes?
When a man finally grows up, does he still need a woman? Is that your question?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, that's like asking, what is the point of getting married once you're married? Okay, now we're married. Now what? Now what? Now you're married. The truth doesn't need improvement. So in every state that we've been in, we're thinking, okay, what improvement do we look for now? We have peace in the world. Then what? Then it's boring. So somebody's going to have to start a war. No, then it's not peace. Then it's just a ceasefire. Real peace doesn't need to be justified by some other. Now that we have peace, we can achieve something better. It doesn't need justification, like marriage. Now that we're married, what happens next? Nothing has to happen next. Marriage is the end, not the means. Of course, the marriage has to be good, but that's just being married. It doesn't have to lead to something better. And I see that's the difference. A man is created, and the way he is can lead to something better. If it doesn't, then he failed. If he doesn't become a man. So, in a sense, the Jewish people are like the feminine dimension of the universe. The Jew is Jewish. He doesn't have to become Jewish. Doesn't even need to be circumcised to be Jewish. He's circumcised because he's Jewish. So the world has come to a point now where, fine, yeah, Jews are different. Why is that scary? Why is that insulting? Why is that unacceptable? The Jew is different in that the Jew is what he is meant to be, or she is meant to be. And no matter what they do, they will not change. They are what they are. And that's, like Popeye said, I am what I am, and that's all what I am. So that's the sign that Mashiach is very close. When anti-Semitism is becoming ridiculous. Ridiculous. For 4,000 years, the world tried to do something about the Jew. Okay, stop already. So the fact that those nations and those governments that were so anti-Jewish, because they desperately wanted to prove that we are not better. Hitler wanted to prove that we were inferior, not just not better. And Stalin was paranoid of anything different from him. So those concepts are gone. And the menorah stands lit in front of the Kremlin, bringing out the truth even in the darkest places. And the menorah in front of the Brandenburg Gate, it's only been one generation. There are people who remember that place when it was evil. So look at how dramatically the world has changed without firing a shot. Without a war. Like, Rabbi Sachs used to say, what was the Rebbe's power? He had no army behind him. He had no great wealth behind him. He had no great political system behind him. He was a man living in Brooklyn. How does a man living in Brooklyn, nothing against Brooklyn, by the way, but and he hardly ever left Brooklyn. How do you sit in one place and affect the world? Obviously through his emissaries, but when's the last time that happened? So it's the power of the truth. He sat in Brooklyn and he said, this is true. Guess what? It's true. It's true. True is true, and that's all we need. So we are in a very good direction. The world is moving in a very good direction. And all the ugliness and all the corruption and the pettiness, it's all so superficial and senseless, totally senseless.
Rabbi Friedman, it's happening, so I can't not ask you. Once we're talking about the nations and communism, in the 60s, all our grandparents have been warning us in Russia about China. For some reason, they were saying that that's going to be the biggest threat to the world. And right now, it seems to be, or at least this is what it looks like. Is there anything in Torah about the people of China, and anything? Is there anything that I don't know? We don't, outside of history, spiritually, what do we need to understand about this nation?
There are two forms of evil. There's rape and there's seduction. Iran is a big danger. And China is a big danger. But China succeeds through seduction. I don't mean literally, although they do use... In order for China to succeed at its evil plan, it depends on the cooperation of its victim. Don't cooperate. It'll go away. Iran, on the other hand, uses force or plans to use force. And then whether we cooperate or not, we're in danger. So those are the two final threats. Those two countries. But they're going to fail. They're already failing. Once we see how they work and once we know what they're up to, they failed. They've been exposed. Evil cannot handle exposure.
So every time a whistleblower comes on on any topic, that's good news, isn't it?
Well, there's more than a whistleblower. Iran doesn't keep it a secret. They don't need a whistleblower. And China, they're not going to deny it. They're too arrogant. So it's over. Exactly how it unravels, we'll see. But it's unraveling. But I'm glad we started this show on a good, positive note. It's becoming visible, noticeable. That's good news.
And is it up to us to help things along? It seems like we're right now in a slate for a ride, and that not much is up to us anymore. Things are happening, and we're now just the observers.
That's the danger. The danger is once you start seeing all this good, you feel like you could retire. But that would be sad. To not get in a little bit of the action. So everybody should make sure you have a Chanukah, a menorah. Make sure you're present tonight wherever a menorah is being lit properly, with the blessing and the singing and maybe even a latke. Don't let it happen without you.
Why is it so much easier to be happy during Hanukkah? Every year. And the more candles lit, the happier we get.
Because it's true. Because the days of Hanukkah really are different. There's more light. But anybody going online, just going to the Hanukkah celebration, Hanukkah observance, it's breathtaking. My grandfather had to light the menorah in the cellar in Kharkiv. What a change! What a change! And who would have believed it? If you would have said 1950, there's going to be a menorah in front of the Nazi headquarters. Right. In 1950, most people were saying Judaism is basically over. That's what they were saying. Jews were saying. In America, it's not going to flourish. In Israel, nobody's interested. Judaism, it was good for Europe. One man saw the truth, and with the truth, he slew the dragon. It's really exciting. A good world is waiting just around the corner. And we're about to turn that corner. People are panicking. Some people. Oh no, this is going to be, we've felt secure before, like in Germany, they said, nah, not in today's modern times. Anti-Semitism was for the Middle Ages, but not in modern time, not in Germany. So are we doing the same thing again? That's a good question. Are we being naive? Wishful thinking? We just don't want to face the horrors of what might be? It is not the same at all. In those days in Germany, Jews were doing well because they were Germanic. In Russia, Jews were communistic. And we thought that that's what's going to make it safe. We're the Jews of Germany. We're Germans. Why would anybody turn against us? See, that's very different. We were on the receiving end. We were given permission. We were tolerated. And that's always dangerous. Tolerance is notoriously fickle. But today, it's not that we are tolerated. In every country's constitution, aside from the Muslim world, freedom of religion is a given. Of course, freedom of religion. What, are you starting up with God? It's ridiculous. So every constitution promises freedom of religion, which tells you the thinking, the true convictions of most of the world. They don't live up to it. Okay. That's human frailty. But in a moment of sanity, if you're writing a constitution, nobody is going to write, we will not allow religion. At worst, we will allow one religion, like in the Muslim countries. So what's happening today is, it's not Judaism as being tolerated. That truth that makes them write in their constitution that we guarantee freedom of religion has now become real. It's not a foreign thing. It's not a fickle thing. On the contrary, the human weakness that didn't allow religion has healed. We've outgrown it. So now to not allow a religion is so distasteful in people's minds. So it's a very different world. It's a different world when Jews in Germany were taking German names and Jews in Russia were becoming the most devoted communists to what we're seeing today. The menorah is visible. Jews are not hiding. Some people are afraid of being so visible because, in 2,000 years we've tried not to be. It's an old habit. But nobody is forcing Germany to have a menorah. Nobody's forcing Putin to allow a menorah. It's a different world. Doesn't mean that there can't be anti-Semitism. But don't compare the two. We're in much better shape.
So we can really say we're tipping the scale these days. Rabbi Friedman, amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for bringing even more light on this day than it already brings, just by default.
The credit is yours.
You're too kind.
It's your show. I'm just visiting.
Rabbi Friedman, thank you so much. And all the amazing things you do online, it's just incredible. I always tell people not to miss the opportunity to get all this inspiration. This is something the world totally needs today, and you're bringing it. And it's such an honor for our radio. I think this is probably the proudest thing I have done in the longest time. That's
a big compliment because you've done a lot.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Friedman. It's just amazing. We're so grateful on behalf of my community for your presence in our life, for your wisdom, for your insights, and for all the wonderful information that you're giving us, our community. And I really, really hope to start translating our shows very, very soon and spread them around even more. Looking for a good translator as we speak.
Into Russian?
Yes.
I thought the other way, maybe. Translate your Russian part of the show to... But that would be great. That would really be great.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking for it. They're saying that they would understand it just, a little deeper.
There are a few people in the world who speak Russian.
Yes. So thank you so much. Thank you for being with us every Tuesday, which is amazing. And lots of light and happiness to you, your family, and again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for bringing it to our community.
You are very welcome. And happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.